Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be discussing the extravagant Easter Godfest that is coming to North America and I believe is live in Europe at this point in time. So I have been making some changes, at least to my website, in that now I have mouse over text when you hover over the icons, so that will hopefully provide a little bit of clarification in case you're unfamiliar with an icon. Now if you do spot an error, please let me know and I'll try and make amends to it, and I'm still in the process of converting my entire list over. And with that out of the way, if you are planning to roll into Godfest, you should always do so only if you can actually benefit from the cards that are featured. It is obviously a gamble, and you want to try and maximize your bang for your magic stones, in that if you are able to try and chase or pursue, say, 7 of the featured Pantheon cards, that is beneficial. So, this Godfest will feature 3 times rates for featured cards, as well as 4 times for Godfest exclusives. In addition to that, there will actually be plus 50 to each roll in a random stat. Furthermore, non-featured Godfest exclusives will not appear. So, in this general brief overview over here, you can actually kind of preview what is available at higher rates for the Pantheons and what is only available for Godfest exclusives. So basically cards that don't appear here and they're a Godfest exclusive will not appear in the Godfest. So I basically follow a checkmark system in that 3 checkmarks is the highest, going down to question mark and then X. And then up and down arrows indicating if they've moved up or down in various brackets. And then gold star, blue square, and purple circle to help differentiate within a tier bracket itself if a card is better or worse. So for day 1 and day 2, actually, it's a very powerful Godfest overall because there's nothing in question mark, nothing in X. So that is actually quite amazing in terms of featured Pantheons. And if you want to take a look at where the cards kind of rank with the extra filtering system, this will hopefully provide a bit of clarification, because this is a great reference to quickly glance at, but if you want a bit more information, this chart here may provide a bit more insight. So I am going to be discussing all the cards in detail. So day 1 does feature the Norse plus the Archdemon Pantheon. And all of these Pantheons are in the process of receiving new evolutions, and new evolutions are what kind of push a card back into the meta because they regain value and they become significantly more powerful because they either gain, say, 1,000 weighted, they jump to a total of 1,000 weighted stats if they are reincarnated, and if they go from regular form to awoken, they change their active skill, hopefully for the better. So in this case here, awoken Loki and reincarnated Loki and reincarnated Astaroth are actually at the top, because Loki is simply the strongest double SBR Dark sub available for Dark Athena, who I still strongly believe will be coming to North America. Do not ask me when. But his double TPA, 7 combo awakening, and high weighted stats mean that he is somewhat irreplaceable in a solo team setting. On the other hand, reincarnated Astaroth has the ability to form actually a very potent and powerful team. But the main issue is with Astaroth, she is just not a popular leader. People tend to not want to run her, and that's mostly because of her very restrictive subpool. She only can benefit wood, healers, and devils. And while that team is able to sport 4 times health, 64 times attack with Rose, and naturally high recovery from healers, plus the 35% badge, it's just not going to be very popular because, yes, it can clear endgame content, but it takes a little bit more effort, as well as the fact that it's just not as elite as other options. So it's not to say that she's bad, it's just that she is probably just going to be unpopular. Moving down, we come to a reincarnated Freyr and Freyja, and these 2 cards here, they basically provide them with similar weighted stats to Loki, similar awakenings, like they have like their offensive awakenings. They also have 7 combo, but the only downside is they just don't fit as perfectly on any team. So you may utilize them as a base for skill inheritance, but they're not necessarily as in demand as Loki would be for Dark Athena. Moving down further, we find Archangel Lucifer, Awoken Lucifer, and Awoken Lucifer was able to form actually a very powerful team, maybe a year's time ago, and it still can clear content. You can still easily clear Arena 1, and probably a lot of higher up content if you really tried. So it does have merits as a leader, but it is starting to obviously decline. Maybe with Reincarnate Evolution he'll start jumping back up, but he does still have God Killer, he does have 3 skill boosts, he does have a true damage nuke, so he does have value still. And then moving down into the square bracket, we have Belial and Amon, who just became awoken along with Baal. And these 3 cards have more value because their active skills have improved. No longer is it starting at, what, like a horrible 17 or 18, and now it can be max scaled to, I believe, 7 still, but it's a lot gentler by comparison. In addition, they also remove hazard orbs, so they gain more benefit there. Just the main downside is that none of them really have optimal board changer synergy. Like, it's just awkward to utilize them fully, and while it is a 7-turn cooldown and it does remove hazard orbs, you don't necessarily have to remove hazard orbs all the time. So 7-turn cooldown for a single orb changer is quite low value. And the fact that they're not reincarnated forms means they don't have 1,000 weighted stats, so you may not necessarily use them as a base for skill inheritance. So it's just a little awkward place, but they are definitely an improvement. Next is Awoken Ionai and Thor, and these are the 2 other Norse gods who have not received a reincarnated evolution. When they do, they'll probably move up, but in the meantime, they're just not as powerful because, who knows, maybe that reincarnated evolution will be absolutely horrendously. I don't want to make assumptions at this point in time. Moving into day 2, we have Reincarnated Haku. And Reincarnated Haku is probably one of the most desirable and strongest cards in the game, presently speaking. This is because she has 1,000 weighted stats, she has double TPA, 7 combo awakening, as well as ideal typings for important teams. In addition, she also has a tricolored board changer. And while you may feel that a tricolored board changer that does not produce hard orbs is inefficient, we are starting to move out of a heart cross meta. So that means these type of board changers have a bit more relevancy. Obviously, if she generated hard orbs like Ryuna, it'd be stronger, but we can't have everything in what is arguably one of the best cards. Now, the reason why she is so strong is because she forms the best in slot sub for 2 high-end teams, most notably Reincarnate Kusanagi Hime, as well as Dark Athena. In addition, you can use Awoken Haku on Aizen teams, you can use Reincarnated Haku on every other Dark team, basically. Basically, every other Dark team will love to use Haku, like Reincarnate Yomi, Yomi Dragon, just incredibly powerful. Furthermore, Haku is actually a strong leader herself, so plenty of options for her, and it is partially the reason why we might call this month Puzzles and Haku. Moving down, we go into Reincarnated Meimei, and she follows a similar trend to Haku, except the problem is Reincarnated Meimei does not have any like super amazing team she fits on. Yes, you can use her on real teams, but it's just not as powerful and proficient as the teams Haku can play on, and that's why she just is ranked lower. She just doesn't have as perfect of a home. On the other hand, Reincarnated Persephone actually has quite a lot of value right now because she has 1,000 weighted stats, she regains God typing, so you can use her on Yomi Dragon, you can use her Dark Water form on Aizen teams, you can use Reincarnated form on Dark Athena, you can use her basically on any Dark team as well, like Haku. It's just she doesn't comprise the best in slot sub, and that's why she is ranked lower. There's also no 7 combo awakening. But the double orb changer with Skyfall buff is very powerful, and that's partially why the entire Pantheon is ranked relatively high, because being able to convert 2 types of orbs like hearts plus a different color to your primary element allows you to do massive burst damage, and 2 turns of Skyfalls helps keep those orbs flowing. And that basically applies to Reincarnated Hermes, Artemis, and Apollo, who all have those reincarnated forms, and they're strong, and maybe Hermes could move up just because he has potential pairing with Sun Quan, but Sun Quan, the downside is you have to use an active skill for recovery as well as damage. Ares just kind of lacks behind because Ares does not have a reincarnated form yet. Now we transition into Reincarnated Leyland, and Reincarnated Leyland features the 7 combo awakening as well as the high weighted stats, but again she just doesn't fit as perfectly on any team at this point in time, so we just can't utilize her as well as I would really want to. And Reincarnated Sakuya, she is actually a formidable leader, but it is still a glass cannon, unfortunately. And that means you are obviously vulnerable to most mechanics aside from binds, because Reincarnated Sakuya has to hit combos as well as fire, water, wood, and light orbs. So you have to basically juggle 2 different mechanics because ideally you want to hit 10 combos for 400 times, but you may not have a board that has those orbs. Even if you can maximize the board in terms of combos matched, you are still going to feel a little lacking because, well, you just have to chase 2 different mechanics, and you might as well be playing Anubis at this point in time because Anubis hits harder, has a recovery multiplier, and yes, there's an active skill clause, but it's easier to overcome than managing 2 different resources. And then finally, we come to Awoken Karen, and Awoken Karen is unfortunately in a little sad spot because almost every other water orb changer is stronger than her, and without a reincarnated form, we have no idea how strong she will be, and if she will move up. She will probably move up when she gets reincarnated, but it's just hard to say how far. So basically, if you want to read along my commentary, you feel free to take a look at the article in the YouTube description down below. And now we come to the Godfest exclusive tier, and basically I am tracking the Godfest exclusive in terms of rankings, in terms of them moving up, moving down, or any changes that occur based on various buffs that are released. So the first notable change I want to mention is Fenrir. And Fenrir has been a joke for a while, but in all honesty, it's hard to deny that Fenrir is as horrible as he was upon release, mostly because with the latest buffs, as well as the fact that we have inheritable farmable options, allows you to inherit board changes like Jormungandr, Gainot, and Lynthia onto stronger base subs, because that way you can utilize the base cards you like, such as like reincarnated evolutions, while having the orb changer you want. Because for the most part, Gung-Ho does not want to release jammer creating cards, because cards that create jammers don't have value on any other team outside of the jammer meta, which never took off. But with, like I said, the inheritance option, they like to release farmable cards that make jammers because everyone can acquire them and no one's really sad about it. So there is more team building options for Fenrir and Fenrir Viz, and their activation requirements has been lowered, so they're just easier and a little more consistent to play. Unfortunately, there's just no real stellar subs available, and it's just an awkward and non-intuitive play style. So they are obviously an improvement compared to where they were before, but they're just not where they need to be to really compete with traditional leaders. Next is Tsubaki, and I moved Tsubaki up because Tsubaki has double Dragon Killer. And in all honesty, double Dragon Killer is impossible to replicate. No one can do what Tsubaki does, and while it may be used for faster farming, I don't know why Tsubaki's appearing twice, maybe they're just really excited, but they should only be here in the double check mark. But double Tsubaki, the double Dragon Killer Tsubaki allows you to basically bypass a lot of mechanics because probably a third to half of the game is dragons. So being able to simply annihilate dragons with one card allows you to greatly open up team building options, as well as the fact that they have a relatively low base cooldown as well as set 2 skill boost means it's easier to build a speed farming team around them. So yes, you may feel it's luxurious, but you can't replicate it anywhere else, and it's just powerful overall. And last but not least, I want to touch upon Tsubaki, and Tsubaki is stronger now, but it's just not where it needs to be fully utilized. Like, some can argue that it's a useful sub on many Dark teams, but on Dark Athena it's nowhere near optimal because its base skill cannot be used, as well as, say, if you use the sub version on Noctis teams, you gain a 4th TPA, which can somewhat make damage control even more problematic because you have one card hitting even harder than Noctis would be, so that can run into some problems. And as a leader, it's just not able to keep abreast with other cards because it is a 5-star Godfest exclusive. So, putting it all together, this is basically a combined version of the featured Godfest exclusives on each day, as well as the Pantheons into a very handy reference chart. And I'm just going to leave that sitting on the screen for a little period of time so you can kind of absorb it while you just listen to me talk. So I did release a Pantheon tier list in a previous posting, and I have been editing mouse over text onto all of my icons, and that is a very time-consuming process. It takes a long time because I have hundreds of icons and I have to go through each of them individually. So I've only done the ones that are featured for this Godfest, so hopefully I'll be able to pump out that tier list revamp for this post here, or maybe I'll just make a separate follow-up in a day or two's time frame if I'm not able to finish it. Because I'd rather make a brand new list with all the correct icons instead of creating one now and then trying to copy-paste over. Just it saves me time in the long run. But at least you can see what is featured and how they rank against the other cards, presently speaking. So overall, this is actually a very powerful Godfest because the featured pantheons are quite potent and powerful, and day 2 is pretty stacked in all honesty. Like, if you don't care for Dark Kali, day 2 is quite amazing. Like, it's got a lot stronger pantheons and Godfest exclusives. So if you are planning to roll, you should obviously try and aim for days that you are missing more cards of, because naturally with higher rates you're more likely to roll those, and in theory any new card is more valuable than like your 4th or 5th dupe for most things. So let me know what you think about this Godfest in the comments below. Do you think it's worth rolling? How many stones have you saved up? And what do you hope to roll? Hopefully you'll have a mantastic day. I wish you the best of luck in this Godfest, and happy puzzling!